The evening sun painted the sky orange and purple over the junkyard. Daeho wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the piles of metal around him. Another long day was ending at his salvage yard on the edge of Nuso Colony. The place was filled with broken spacecraft parts, old machines, and things nobody wanted anymore. Daeho was 45 years old with rough hands and a tired face. He lived alone in a small workshop at the back of the junkyard. Most people in the colony thought he was just a grumpy old man who liked his privacy. They were not completely wrong. Daeho did like being alone. It was easier that way. No questions, no pain, no memories of the family he lost 5 years ago when raiders attacked the colony. He picked up his scanner and started his evening walk through the yard. This was his routine. Every night before dark, he checked the new arrivals and made sure everything was locked down. The scanner beeped softly as he moved between the metal mountains. Nothing unusual, just the normal readings from dead engines and broken computers. Then he heard something different. It was a soft sound, almost like a kitten crying. Daeho stopped walking and listened carefully. There was again a whimpering noise coming from the far corner of the yard, near the pile of crushed shuttle panels he had received that morning. He moved slowly toward the sound. His military training from years ago kicked in. Be careful. Stay alert. Unknown things in junkyards could be dangerous. Maybe it was just a wild animal looking for food. The frontier planets had all kinds of strange creatures. The whimpering got louder as he got closer. Daeho pushed aside a broken solar panel and looked behind the pile. What he saw made him freeze. There was a small creature curled up in a ball, no bigger than a human child of 3 or 4 years old. But this was not a human child. The creature had scales that shimmered in the fading sunlight, changing colors from silver to blue. Small horns poked out from its head, and folded against its back were tiny wings. The creature was shaking, and Daeho could see scratches and burns on its skin. His heart pounded in his chest. He knew what this was. He had seen pictures in old galactic records during his military days. This was a Draken, a member of a species that was supposed to be extinct. The Galactic Council had declared them too dangerous to exist and had hunted them down 20 years ago. The small creature opened its eyes and looked at Daeho. Golden eyes, bright and afraid, stared up at him. The whimpering stopped. For a moment, neither of them moved. Daeho saw fear in those eyes, but also something else. Hope, maybe, or just the desperate look of something that had nowhere else to go. Every logical part of Daeho's brain told him to walk away. The council had clear orders. Any Draken found alive had to be reported immediately. They would send enforcers to eliminate the creature. It was a law. It was supposed to keep everyone safe. But Daeho kept looking at those golden eyes. This was not a dangerous warrior. This was a child. A hurt, scared, starving child who was alone and had no one to help. The creature made a small sound, weaker this time, and its eyes started to close again. It was dying. Without help, it would not survive the night. Daeho made his decision. He went back to his workshop quickly and grabbed an old thermal blanket. When he returned, the small Draken had not moved. Very carefully, like handling something precious and fragile, Daeho wrapped the creature in the blanket. The Draken was so light, weighing almost nothing in his arms. Up close, Daeho could see how thin it was. The scales that should have been bright were dull. The creature was starving. He carried the bundle back to his workshop and laid it on his workbench, clearing away tools and parts. The Draken's breathing was shallow and fast. Burns covered parts of its arms and legs, probably from a crash or an explosion. There were also what looked like weapon marks, proof that someone had tried to hurt this child. Daeho's jaw tightened. He had seen too much cruelty in his life, too much senseless killing. He was tired of it. He pulled out his emergency medical kit and started working. First, he needed to stop any bleeding. Then he had to treat the burns. The Draken's body temperature was too low, so he set up heat lamps around the workbench. He worked carefully, using everything he knew from his military first aid training. The creature stayed unconscious through all of it. Sometimes it would whimper softly, or its small claws would twitch, but it did not wake up. Daeho talked to it quietly while he worked, the way he used to talk to his own son when the boy was sick. "You're going to be okay," he said softly. "I do not know what happened to you, but you are safe now. Nobody is going to hurt you here." When he finished treating the wounds, Deho stood back and looked at his work. The small draken was breathing easier now, wrapped in warm blankets under the heat lamps. It looked so small and helpless on his large workbench. Deho walked to his computer terminal and stared at it for a long time. He should report this. That was what the law said. That was what any good citizen would do. His finger hovered over the communication button. But then he remembered the extermination order. He remembered reading reports about how the council had destroyed entire Draken settlements, killing everyone including children. They said it was necessary. They said the Drakens were too dangerous, too aggressive, too different to be allowed to exist. Deho looked back at the small creature sleeping on his workbench. Too dangerous? This tiny, hurt child who could barely breathe? He moved his hand away from the communication button. He would not make that call. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. Instead, he pulled up the security systems and activated privacy mode. All cameras and sensors that fed data to the colony network went dark. As far as anyone else knew, his workshop was empty and quiet, just like always. The small draken stirred slightly, making a soft cooing sound in its sleep. The fear seemed to have left its face. It looked peaceful now. Deho pulled up a chair and sat down next to the workbench. He would keep watch tonight. Tomorrow he would figure out what to do. Tomorrow he would make plans. But tonight, he would just make sure this small, broken creature stayed alive. He looked at the draken's face, so young and innocent even with scales and horns. "What am I going to do with you?" he whispered to the sleeping child. Outside, the sky turned dark and stars appeared. The junkyard was quiet except for the soft hum of the heat lamps and the gentle breathing of a creature that should not exist. And in his workshop, Deho sat guard over a secret that could cost him everything. But for the first time in 5 years, since he lost his family, Deho felt something other than emptiness in his chest. He felt purpose. He felt needed. And deep down, he knew that he would protect this small life, no matter what it cost him. The night grew deeper, and Deho kept his watch, while in the blankets, a dragon child slept and dreamed of safety for the first time in a very long time. Morning light came through the workshop windows and touched the sleeping form on the workbench. Deho had not slept all night. He sat in his chair, watching the small draken breathe. The creature looked better now. Its scales had regained some of their shine, and the burns were already starting to heal. Draken healing must be faster than human healing, Deho thought. The creature's eyes opened slowly. Those golden eyes looked around the room, confused and afraid. Then they found Deho. The man stayed very still, not wanting to scare the child. He kept his hands visible and his voice soft. "Hello there," Deho said quietly. "You are safe. I am not going to hurt you." The small draken watched him carefully. Its body was tense, ready to run even though it was too weak to go far. Deho slowly reached for a bottle of water and a piece of dried meat from his supplies. He placed them on the workbench, close enough for the creature to reach but far enough to not feel threatening. "You must be hungry," Deho said. "It is okay. You can eat." The draken looked at the food, then at Deho, then back at the food. Slowly, very slowly, it reached out with one small clawed hand and took the meat. It sniffed the food carefully before taking a tiny bite. Then another bite. Soon it was eating quickly, desperately, like someone who had not eaten in days. Deho smiled a little. "Slow down. There is more. You do not have to rush." But the creature could not slow down. It finished the meat and drank half the water bottle in seconds. When it was done, it looked at Deho again. This time there was less fear in those golden eyes. Just a little less, but it was a start. Over the next few days, a routine developed. Deho would bring food and water. The small draken would eat. At first, the creature stayed on the workbench, not moving around much. But as it got stronger, it started to explore the workshop. It would walk around on 4 legs, sometimes standing on 2 like a human child learning to walk. Deho watched with fascination. The creature was incredibly smart. On the second day, It figured out how to open the supply cabinet. On the third day, it learned which button turned the heat lamps on and off. It watched everything Dayho did with intense focus, learning and understanding. The man decided the creature needed a name. He could not keep calling it the creature or the Draken in his mind. He thought for a long time and finally chose the name Tay. It was a simple name that meant something great. It felt right. "Your name is Tay," Dayho said one morning, pointing to the small Draken. "Tay, that is you." The dragon child tilted its head, clearly thinking about the sound. Then, to Dayho's surprise, it tried to repeat it. "Tay," the creature said, its voice high and musical, but definitely trying to copy the word. Dayho felt his heart warm. "Yes, Tay, you are Tay. Tay," the creature said more clearly this time, pointing to itself. Then it pointed at Dayho with a questioning look. "I am Dayho," the man said, pointing to himself. "Dayho." The small dragon tried several times before getting it right. "Dayho," it finally said, and its face showed something that looked like a smile. From that moment, their bond grew stronger. Tay followed Dayho everywhere, in the workshop. When the man worked on broken machines, Tay would sit nearby and watch. The dragon child showed particular interest in how things worked. It would pick up tools and examine them, trying to understand their purpose. Dayho discovered that Tay had abilities beyond normal understanding. One afternoon, a bolt fell from the workbench and rolled under a heavy cabinet. Before Dayho could get down to reach it, the bolt floated up into the air and drifted back to the workbench. Tay was staring at it with concentration, one small hand extended. "You can move things with your mind," Dayho said with wonder. "That is amazing." Tay looked proud of itself. Over the following days, the dragon child showed other abilities. It could make itself warmer or cooler, depending on the temperature around it. It seemed to know when Dayho was sad or worried, coming over to press its small body against a man's leg in comfort. One evening, Dayho sat down with Tay and tried to learn more about what had happened. He showed the dragon child pictures on his computer screen. Pictures of different places, different ships, different things. When he showed a picture of a Draken family from the old records, Tay became very still, its golden eyes filled with sadness. The small dragon made sounds and gestures, trying to communicate. It pointed at the family picture, then at itself, then made a motion like an explosion. Then it pointed at empty space, showing that they were gone. Dayho understood. Tay's family was dead. "I am sorry," Dayho said, feeling tears in his own eyes. "I am so sorry that happened to you." Tay seemed to understand the sadness in Dayho's voice. The dragon child came closer and put its small clawed hand on Dayho's arm. They sat together in silence, two beings who had both lost their families, finding comfort in each other. Dayho made changes to the workshop to make it safer and more comfortable for Tay. He built a small room within the larger workshop, with proper heating and soft places to sleep. He installed extra locks on the doors. He even made hiding spots where Tay could go quickly if someone came to visit. The dragon child loved the new space. It would arrange its sleeping area just so, moving blankets around until everything was perfect. It collected interesting pieces of junk from around the workshop, things that caught its eye. A shiny piece of metal here, a colorful wire there. It was building a small collection of treasures. One day, Tay brought something to Dayho and held it out. It was a small gear that the dragon child had polished until it shined. Tay placed it in Dayho's hand and made a happy chirping sound. "Is this for me?" Dayho asked. "Thank you, Tay. I will keep it safe." The dragon child looked so pleased with itself. From that day on, Tay would sometimes bring Dayho small gifts. A pretty rock, a piece of crystal, an old coin that had turned green with age. Each time, Dayho accepted the gift with gratitude and kept it in a special box on his desk. Their days fell into a peaceful pattern. Mornings were for work and learning. Tay was picking up more human words every day and could now communicate basic needs and ideas. Afternoons were for play. Dayho would toss objects for Tay to catch or hide things for the dragon child to find. Evenings were quiet time, with both of them working on projects or just sitting together in comfortable silence. But Daeho knew this peace could not last forever. He was running low on certain supplies, things he could not normally buy without raising questions. He needed special food with high protein for Tae's growing body. He needed more medical supplies in case the dragon child got sick. He needed help, but help meant risk. There was only one person he could think of who might understand. Hygiene was a supply trader who came to the colony once a week. She had been Daeho's friend for years, one of the few people who still talked to him regularly. She was smart, practical, and had a good heart. But would she keep the secret? Could Daeho risk telling her? He thought about it for days while Tae grew stronger and more active. The dragon child was getting bigger, eating more, needing more space. Daeho could not keep this hidden alone much longer. One morning, as Tae practiced stacking metal blocks with its mind powers, Daeho made his decision. He would tell Hygiene. He would have to trust someone eventually, and she was his best choice. He sent her a message asking her to come to the junkyard when she could. He said it was important and private. She replied that she would come the next day. Daeho spent that evening preparing what he would say. How do you tell someone you are hiding a creature that the whole galaxy wants dead? How do you ask them to risk everything to keep your secret? Tae sensed Daeho's worry. The dragon child came and sat next to him, making soft, comforting sounds. Daeho put his hand on Tae's head, feeling the smooth scales and small horns. Tomorrow might change everything, he told the dragon child. But we need help. I hope I am making the right choice. Tae looked up at him with those trusting golden eyes, and Daeho felt his resolve strengthen. Whatever happened tomorrow, he would protect this small life. He had made a promise to himself that night. He found Tae, and he would keep it. Outside, the evening sky turned dark. Inside the workshop, a man and a dragon child sat together, both hoping that tomorrow would bring a friend and not an enemy. Hygiene arrived at the junkyard just after noon. She was a woman in her late 30s with sharp eyes and quick movements. She had seen many things in her years as a trader, traveling between colonies and stations. Not much surprised her anymore, but today would be different. Daeho met her at the gate, looking more nervous than she had ever seen him. They had known each other for 7 years, and he was usually calm and steady. Something was definitely wrong. Thank you for coming, Daeho said quietly. Please come inside. We need to talk privately. Hygiene followed him through the junkyard paths to his workshop. She noticed that all his security cameras were turned off. Strange. Daeho never turned off his cameras. He was always careful about security. What is going on? She asked as they entered the workshop. Your message sounded serious. Daeho locked the door behind them. He stood there for a moment, clearly trying to find the right words. I need to show you something. But first, you have to promise me you will listen to the whole story before you make any decisions. Daeho, you are scaring me, Hygiene said. What is this about? Before he could answer, there was a soft sound from the back room, a musical chirping noise that Hygiene had never heard before. Her hand moved automatically toward the small weapon she always carried. Wait, Daeho said, stepping in front of her. Please, just wait and listen. The door to the back room opened slowly. A small figure walked out on 4 legs. Hygiene froze. Her mind could not process what she was seeing at first. Silver blue scales, small horns, tiny wings folded against its back, golden eyes looking at her with curiosity. Is that? She started to say, her voice barely working. A draken, Daeho finished. Yes, his name is Tae. I found him 3 weeks ago, hurt and starving. He was dying. Hygiene took a step back. Her heart was racing. Every person in the galaxy knew about drakens. They were supposed to be extinct. They were supposed to be dangerous. The council had extermination orders. Anyone hiding one could be executed. Are you insane? She whispered. Do you know what they will do to you if they find out? Tae sensed the fear in her voice. The small dragon backed up slightly, moving closer to Daeho's legs. It made a small worried sound. Look at him, Daeho said calmly. Really look at him. Does he look dangerous to you? Hygiene forced herself to look properly. The creature was small, maybe the size of a young human child. It was pressed against Deho's leg, clearly frightened of her. Its golden eyes were wide and scared. This was not the image of the fearsome warriors she had heard about in stories. He is just a child, Deho continued. His family was killed by council hunters. He escaped in a pod and crashed near my junkyard. When I found him, he was half dead. What was I supposed to do? Report him so they could finish the job? Hygiene's mind was racing. This was bad. This was really bad. But she could see the way Deho stood protectively in front of the small dragon. She could see the bond between them. And when she looked at Tay again, all she saw was a scared child. "You should have told me sooner," she said finally, lowering her hand from her weapon. 3 weeks? You have been dealing with this alone for 3 weeks. I did not know if I could trust anyone, Deho admitted. I still do not know if I can. But I need help. He needs things I cannot get without raising questions. Hygiene walked slowly closer. Tay watched her carefully but did not run away. "Can he understand us?" she asked. "Some words," Deho said. "He is very smart. He learns fast." "Hygiene," Tay said suddenly, pointing at her. The voice was high and sweet, clearly trying to say her name. She jumped a little at hearing the creature speak. "He knows my name? I told him you were coming." Deho explained. "He listens to everything." Hygiene sat down on a workbench, her legs suddenly feeling weak. "This is crazy. You know this is crazy, right? They will kill both of you if they find out. They will probably kill me too just for knowing about it." "I know," Deho said quietly. "That is why I understand if you want to leave and forget you saw anything. I would not blame you." Hygiene looked at the small dragon again. Tay had relaxed a little and was now exploring a pile of spare parts nearby, picking things up with its small claws and examining them. It moved with innocent curiosity, like any normal child would. How could something so small and harmless be considered such a terrible threat? "What do you even do?" she asked. "You cannot keep him hidden here forever. He is growing. Soon he will be too big to hide in a workshop." "I do not know yet," Deho admitted. "I have been trying to figure that out. That is another reason I needed to talk to you. You travel. You know people. Is there anywhere safe for him?" Hygiene was quiet for a long moment. She was thinking about something, weighing options in her mind. Finally, she spoke. "There might be a way. I know some people who help refugees. People who do not agree with all of the council's policies." "The Underground Railroad?" Deho asked. He had heard rumors of such a network, but never knew if it was real. "I cannot confirm or deny anything specific," Hygiene said carefully. "But yes, there are people who help beings that the council wants dead. It is dangerous work, very dangerous. And getting a Draken to safety would be almost impossible. The council watches for them more carefully than anyone else." "But it is possible?" Deho asked hopefully. "Maybe," Hygiene said. "Let me make some contacts. I need to be very careful about how I ask. If the wrong person hears about this, we are all dead." Tay came over to them, carrying a shiny piece of metal. It held the object up to Hygiene, offering it to her. She looked at the small dragon with surprise. "He does this," Deho said with a small smile. "He brings gifts to people he likes. I think he wants to be your friend." Hygiene slowly took the piece of metal. "Thank you, Tay," she said softly. The dragon child made a happy chirping sound and bounced a little on its legs. Then it ran back to explore more of the workshop. "He seems healthy," Hygiene observed. "You have done good work taking care of him." "He is getting bigger every day," Deho said, "and stronger. He can move things with his mind now. Small things, but still, he is amazing." Over the next hour, Hygiene watched Deho and Tay interact. She saw how the dragon child would bring tools to Deho before he asked for them. She saw how they communicated with a mix of words and gestures. She saw the love and trust between them. It reminded her of a father and son, even though they were completely different species. "I will help you," Hygiene finally said. "I must be as crazy as you are, but I will help." "This is wrong. Hunting children is wrong, no matter what species they are. Daeho felt relief wash over him. Thank you. You do not know what this means. I am not promising anything. Hygiene warned. Getting him to safety will take time. Weeks, maybe months. You need to be very careful. And there is something else you should know. What? The Council has increased patrols in this sector. They are looking for something. I heard they are bringing in enforcers with special scanning equipment. I do not know if it is related to Tay, but you need to be prepared. Daeho felt his stomach drop. How much time do we have? I do not know. Could be weeks. Could be days. I will try to find out more. Hygiene stood up and headed for the door. I will bring supplies next time I visit. Things that will not look suspicious. In the meantime, keep him hidden and be extra careful. Before she left, she looked back at Tay one more time. The small dragon was watching her with those intelligent golden eyes. Stay safe, little one, she said quietly. After Hygiene left, Daeho sat down heavily. Tay came over and climbed into his lap, something the dragon child had started doing when it sensed Daeho was worried. She will help us, Daeho told Tay, but we have to be very careful now, more careful than ever. Tay nodded, understanding the serious tone, even if not all the words. The dragon child pressed closer to Daeho, seeking comfort and giving it at the same time. Outside, the afternoon sun was shining. Inside the workshop, Daeho held Tay close and tried not to think about what would happen if the enforcers came before they could escape. He had found hope again in this small dragon child. He had found purpose, and he would fight with everything he had to protect it. The next few days would be critical. Hygiene would make her contacts. Daeho would prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. And Tay would continue to grow and learn, unaware that dangerous forces were moving closer to their hiding place. But for now, in this quiet moment, they were safe. They were together. And that was enough. The enforcers arrived on a gray morning, exactly 1 week after Hygiene's visit. Daeho was in his workshop teaching Tay how to identify different types of metal when the colony alarm system sent out a notification. Council enforcers were conducting security sweeps of all businesses in the settlement. Daeho's blood ran cold. He looked at Tay, who was holding a piece of copper wire and looking up at him with curious eyes. The dragon child could sense something was wrong immediately. Hide, Daeho said firmly. Go to the safe room. Now. They had practiced this many times over the past week. Tay did not ask questions. The dragon child dropped the wire and ran on 4 legs to the back room. There was a hidden panel in the floor that led to a shielded chamber Daeho had built. The chamber was lined with special materials that blocked most scanning equipment. It was small and dark, but it was the safest place Tay could be. Daeho helped Tay climb down into the chamber. Stay quiet. Do not make any sounds. I will come get you when it is safe. Tay nodded, golden eyes wide with fear. Daeho, be safe. The dragon child said in its musical voice. I will. I promise. Daeho closed the panel and covered it with a heavy toolbox. Then he quickly checked the workshop to make sure there were no signs of Tay anywhere. No scales. No scratches from claws. No toys or gift that a dragon child might leave around. 20 minutes later, there was a loud knock on his door. Daeho took a deep breath and opened it. 3 enforcers stood outside in their dark uniforms. The leader was a tall man with cold eyes and a scanner in his hand. Daeho of New Soul Salvage, the man asked. That is me, Daeho said, keeping his voice steady. I am Captain Kyung-soo. We are conducting security inspections. We need to search your property. May I ask what you're looking for? Daeho asked, even though he knew they would not tell him. Hostile alien remnants, Kyung-soo said. There have been reports of unusual activity in this sector. We are checking all facilities. Daeho stepped aside. Search whatever you need to search. I have nothing to hide. The 3 enforcers entered the workshop. One of them was a woman with sharp features who seemed to notice everything. She walked slowly around the room, her eyes taking in every detail. The other 2 began scanning with their equipment. Daeho stood calmly by the door. His military training helped him control his fear. He knew that if he showed nervousness, they would become suspicious. He had to act like a normal, slightly annoyed business owner who was being interrupted. Captain Kyung-soo looked at a computer screen on his scanner. You live alone here? Yes, Daeho said. For the past 5 years. No family? No employees? No, just me and my junk. The female enforcer, whose name badge said Bore, stopped near the back room. She looked at the door, then at her own scanner. There's a room back here, she said. Storage room. Daeho explained. Old parts and supplies. We need to check it, Kyung-soo said. Daeho's heart was pounding, but he kept his face calm. Of course. He opened the door to the back room. Bore entered first, scanning carefully. The room looked normal. Boxes of parts, shelves with tools, a small area where Tae usually slept. But Daeho had hidden all the blankets and cushions that morning. Bore walked around the room slowly. Her scanner beeped and chirped as it analyzed everything. She stopped near the spot where the hidden panel was, right under the heavy toolbox. Daeho stopped breathing. Strange, Bore said quietly. What is strange? Kyung-soo asked from the doorway. The power readings in this area. They are higher than normal for a storage room. Daeho forced himself to speak normally. I run a lot of equipment. Welders, cutters, heat lamps for working with certain materials. The power grid in this building is old. Sometimes the readings are weird. Bore looked at him for a long moment. Daeho met her eyes and did not look away. Finally, she nodded and moved on to scan other areas. The search took 30 minutes. It felt like 30 hours to Daeho. The enforcers checked every corner, every box, every cabinet. Their scanners beeped constantly. But the shielded chamber did its job. They found nothing unusual. Finally, Kyung-soo seemed satisfied. Everything appears normal here, he said. But we may return with more advanced scanning equipment. The council is taking these threats very seriously. I understand, Daeho said. The colony's safety is important. As enforcers were leaving, Bore stopped and looked back at Daeho. You were military, correct? I recognize the discipline. Long time ago, Daeho admitted. You know what we are looking for. Bore said. It was not a question. I have heard the rumors. Draken survivors. They are not just rumors. Kyung-soo said firmly. There have been confirmed sightings. These creatures are extremely dangerous. If you see anything, hear anything, or notice anything unusual, you must report it immediately. The penalty for harboring hostile aliens is execution. I will keep my eyes open, Daeho said. After they left, Daeho waited. He did not go immediately to get Tae. The enforcers might be watching from a distance. He forced himself to do normal work for 2 hours. He sorted metal. He updated his inventory logs. He acted like everything was fine, but inside his mind was racing. Bore had noticed the strange power readings. She was smart and observant. They might come back. And next time, their equipment might be good enough to detect Tae even through the shielding. When he was finally sure it was safe, Daeho moved the toolbox and opened the panel. Tae was curled up in the dark chamber, shaking. The dragon child had been terrified, alone in the darkness, while strange voices moved around above. It is okay, Daeho said softly, lifting Tae out. They are gone. You are safe. Tae wrapped its small arms around Daeho's neck and made soft crying sounds. The dragon child had been so brave, staying quiet the whole time. But now the fear came out. Daeho held Tae close and carried the dragon child to the main workshop. He sat down in his chair with Tae in his lap, rocking gently the way he used to rock his own son. That evening, Hygiene came to visit. She brought supplies and news, none of it good. The enforcers are going building by building, she said quietly. They have orders to search everywhere. And I heard something else. Someone reported seeing something unusual near your junkyard 3 days ago. They did not know what it was, but the report mentioned scales and strange sounds. Daeho felt sick. Who reported it? I do not know, but it means they suspect something. You are on their list now. How much time do we have? Daeho asked. Not much. A few days at most before they come back with better equipment. But I have good news, too. My contacts can extract you. There's a ship leaving in 2 days for the Outer Rim. They have space for refugees. 2 days, Daeho repeated. That is not much time. It is the best I can do, Hygiene said. You need to be ready to leave everything behind. Take only what you can carry. The ship will not wait. Tay was listening to all of this, understanding more than they realized. The dragon child looked at Daeho with sad eyes. Leave home. Tay asked quietly. We have to, Daeho said gently. It is not safe here anymore. That night, Daeho began packing. He chose items carefully. Important documents, credits, medical supplies, some tools, clothes. He packed light because they would need to move fast. Tay helped in the only way a small dragon child could. The creature brought Daeho things it thought were important. A favorite tool, the box of gifts Tay had collected, the shiny gear that had been the first present Tay ever gave. Good thinking, Daeho said, even though some of the items were not practical. He packed them anyway, because they mattered to Tay. The next day passed slowly. Every sound made Daeho jump. Every vehicle that passed by the junkyard made his heart race. Were the enforcers coming back early? Were they being watched right now? Hygiene came again in the evening with final instructions. The ship leaves tomorrow at midnight. You need to be at the North Cargo Port. Look for a freighter called Morning Star. The captain's name is Jin Woo. Tell him the flowers bloom at midnight. That is a password. The flowers bloom at midnight, Daeho repeated. Got it. Be careful, Hygiene said. There will be enforcer patrols between here and the port. You need to avoid them. She looked at Tay, who was watching her with those golden eyes. Stay safe, little one. You deserve a chance at life. Tay walked over and gave Hygiene a small metal flower it had made from scraps. The woman took it with tears in her eyes. After she left, Daeho and Tay sat together in the quiet workshop. Tomorrow night, they would leave this place forever. Leave the home Daeho had built. Leave the safety of familiar walls. They would go into danger and uncertainty. But they would go together. And maybe, just maybe, they would find a place where a man and a dragon child could live in peace. The plan was simple. Wait until dark, move quietly through the back paths of Colony, reach the North Cargo Port, and board the Morning Star before midnight. But plans never survive contact with reality, and Daeho knew it. At 11 in the evening, he locked his workshop for the last time. Tay was wrapped in a large coat, hidden from view. The dragon child had grown bigger over the past weeks, but could still pass as a large bundle of supplies if no one looked too closely. Daeho carried a small pack with their essential belongings. They moved through the junkyard using the shadows. The colony was quieter than usual. Most people were inside their homes. But Daeho could see enforcer patrols moving through the streets. More than normal. Much more. Stay very still, Daeho whispered to Tay. No sounds. The dragon child pressed closer against him, understanding the danger. They reached the edge of the junkyard, and Daeho looked both ways. A patrol was passing 2 streets over. He could see their lights sweeping the buildings. He waited until they moved away, then hurried across the open space to the next block. They made it 3 blocks before things went wrong. Stop right there, a voice called out behind them. Daeho turned slowly. 2 enforcers were approaching, one of them holding a scanner. His heart sank when he recognized one of them. It was Boare, the observant woman from the search. Working late? Boare asked, her eyes suspicious. Just taking some supplies to a friend. Daeho said calmly. At this hour? With full patrols active. Boare moved closer. That is unusual behavior. Is there a curfew I did not know about? Daeho asked. The other enforcer raised a scanner and pointed it at the bundle Daeho was carrying. What is in the package? Machine parts, Daeho said. Old computer components. The scanner beeped. Then it beeped again, faster. The enforcer looked at his screen with confusion. Sir, the readings are strange. This is not registering as machine parts. Boare's hand moved to her weapon. Open the package. Now. Daeho knew this was the moment. He could not fight 2 armed enforcers. He could not run while carrying Tay. Everything he had tried to protect was about to end. But before he could respond, Tay made the choice for him. The dragon child pushed out of the coat and dropped the ground between Daeho and the enforcers. Tay stood on 4 legs, small wings spread slightly, golden eyes looking at the armed soldiers. The dragon child was terrified but stood firm anyway, protecting Daeho just as Daeho had protected Tay. Both enforcers stepped back in shock. A draken, the male enforcer said, raising his weapon. Code red. We have hostile contact. Wait! Daeho shouted, moving in front of Tay. Do not shoot. Step away from the creature. Boare commanded, her own weapon now drawn. No, Daeho said firmly. I will not let you hurt him. It is not a him. It is a hostile alien, the male enforcer shouted. Step aside, or you will be charged with treason. More enforcers were coming. Daeho could hear boots running, voices calling on radios. Within minutes, they would be surrounded. This was it. This was how it would end. But then Boare did something unexpected. She lowered her weapon slightly and really looked at Tay. The small dragon was shaking with fear, but had not attacked, had not shown any aggression. It just stood there, a child trying to protect someone it loved. Hold your fire, Boare said quietly to her partner. What? But protocols say. I said, hold your fire. Boare's voice was sharp now. Look at it. Really look. Captain Kyung-soo arrived with 6 more enforcers. They formed a circle around Daeho and Tay, weapons ready. Kyung-soo's face was hard and angry. I knew something was wrong at that junkyard, he said. You have been harboring a hostile alien. The penalty for this is death. He is not hostile, Daeho said desperately. He is a child. His family was killed. He has never hurt anyone. Drakens are classified as extremely dangerous, Kyung-soo stated. All survivors must be eliminated. That is council law. Colonists were starting to gather now, drawn by the commotion. They stood at a distance, watching. Daeho could see their faces. Fear, curiosity, concern. They made a small sound, looking up at Daeho with those golden eyes. The dragon child was asking what to do, asking if everything would be okay, trusting that Daeho would protect it. Even now, Daeho knelt down next to Tay, ignoring the weapons pointed at him. He put his hand on the dragon child's head gently. It is okay, Tay. I am here. Daeho, Tay said softly, leaning into the touch. Several of the watching colonists gasped. The creature had spoken a name, with affection, with trust. Boare stepped forward, still holding her weapon but pointing it down now. Captain, I request permission to speak. Make it quick, Kyung-soo said. Our orders are to eliminate hostile aliens. Hostile, sir. That creature has done nothing hostile. It is protecting a human. It speaks. It shows emotional attachment. By definition, it is not behaving as a hostile entity. The classification is by species, not behavior, Kyung-soo argued. Then the classification is wrong, Boare said firmly. She looked at the other enforcers. We are soldiers, not executioners of children. If we kill this creature, we are no better than the enemies we claim to fight against. There was silence. Some of the other enforcers were lowering their weapons slightly, looking uncomfortable. The watching colonists were murmuring among themselves. An older woman stepped forward from the crowd. That man lost his family 5 years ago, she said, pointing at Daeho. I saw him after the attack. He was broken, dead inside. But look at him now. He has something to live for again. Who are we to take that away? Another colonist spoke up. I have seen that junkyard owner working every day for years. He never caused trouble, never hurt anyone. If he says the creature is safe, I believe him. More voices joined in, not all of them supportive, but enough to create doubt. Kyung-soo looked around at his team, at the colonists, at the situation spiraling beyond simple protocol. Hygiene pushed through the crowd. Captain, I am a licensed trader with clearance to access council records. I have been researching the Draken Extermination Order. Did you know that order was issued without a formal trial? Without proper investigation? 3 council members pushed it through based on fear, not facts. Kyung-soo's jaw tightened. That is not relevant to the situation. It is completely relevant, Hygiene continued. We are about to kill a child based on a law that might be unjust. Is that what humanity stands for? Tay, sensing the tension, did something remarkable. The dragon child picked up a small stone from the ground and, using its telekinetic ability, made it float in the air. Then, very gently, Tay sent the floating stone to Boare. The enforcer caught it automatically. It was a gift, just like Tay had given gifts to Deho and Hygiene. The dragon child was trying to make friends, even with people pointing weapons at it. Boare looked at the stone in her hand, then at Tay. She holstered her weapon. I will not shoot a child. Court-martial me if you want, but I will not do it. 2 other enforcers followed her lead, lowering their weapons. Then 2 more. The circle was breaking. Kyung-soo stood alone now, still holding his weapon. He looked at Deho and Tay, at his team, at the watching colonists. Years of military discipline warred with something deeper in his heart. Finally, he lowered his weapon. I did not find any hostile aliens here tonight, he said slowly. My team conducted a search and found nothing. Our scanners malfunctioned. These things happen. He looked directly at Deho. There's a cargo ship leaving in 1 hour. The Morning Star. If I were harboring something the Council wanted dead, I would make sure it was on that ship, far away from here. Do you understand? Deho felt tears in his eyes. I understand. You have 1 hour, Kyung-soo said. After that, I will have to file a report about tonight's malfunction. Use your time wisely. The enforcers began to disperse, leaving with their captain. Boare paused as she passed Deho. Keep him safe. He deserves a chance. The colonists helped Deho, and Tay reached the cargo port. Some brought food, others brought supplies. They formed a protective group, hiding Tay from any remaining patrols. It felt like a small parade of hope moving through the dark streets. Captain Jin-woo was waiting at the Morning Star. The flowers bloom at midnight, Deho said breathlessly. Then welcome aboard. Jin-woo replied with a knowing smile. We leave in 10 minutes. Deho and Tay boarded the ship. As it lifted off into the night sky, Deho looked down at the colony below, at the junkyard that had been his home, at the people who had stood up for them, at the enforcers who had chosen conscience over orders. Tay pressed against his side, looking up at him with those golden eyes. New home? The dragon child asked hopefully. Yes, Deho said, holding Tay close. We will find a new home. Together. The Morning Star jumped into hyperspace, carrying them toward the outer rim and safety. Behind them, on New Soul Colony, people talked about what had happened, about the man who protected a child, about the soldiers who chose mercy, about how humanity's greatest strength was not in weapons or laws, but in the courage to do what was right. And somewhere in the galaxy, a man and a dragon child began their new life, proving that family was not about species or origin. It was about love, protection, and the choice to stand together against a universe that sometimes forgot how to be kind.